Delanco Township Special Committee Meeting of May 29, 2025, held at 6 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 770 Coopertown Road, Delanco, New Jersey.
Mayor?
Yep.
We are recording.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to May 29th Township Committee meeting. There's also, we're calling a town hall at 6 o'clock, the Municipal Building, 770 Coopertown Road. Roll call, please.
Is Mr. Bartlett?
Here.
Ms. Fitzpatrick? Here. Mr. McFadden?
Here.
Mr. Ouellette is absent. Ms. Seuss?
Here, thank you. Also present, Mr. Fox, our township engineer, and Mr. Raymond, filling in for our solicitor, and Mrs. Lohr, our municipal clerk. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, sunshine statement,
Hey.
please. Live stream as well.
Please be advised that proper notice of this meeting has been given in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act in the following manner. A written notice has been mailed to the Burlington County Times and Courier Post, and written notice has been posted on the official bulletin board of the Township of Delanco at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. This meeting of the Delanco Township Committee may be transmitted via live stream on YouTube video. The streaming of the meeting is not intended to be relied upon as formal public access under the Open Public Meetings Act, and if the technology is disrupted for any reason, the Township meeting will proceed in person as an official meeting in accord with the official notice.
Okay, could you please silence all cell phones? And we'll move on to our agenda, which tonight we have a special presentation regarding the Township's purchase of 401 Creek Road. So we're going to go through a quick PowerPoint presentation, which we've done before, so I apologize if you've seen it before. But there is some additional information that we added. And after that, we will take comments from the committee, and then we will open public comment for questions and comments. So I will read the rules governing public comment after we do our special presentation. So if you allow me a moment to set up the projector, we'll do a brief 2-minute recess.
Okay. It's blind to me.
Sorry. We just plugged it in at work last time, right?
Hmm?
We just plugged it in at work last time.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's not
Hey,
connected.
Rob, can you hit the lights?
It's not connected to my laptop.
Try the other port.
I did, yeah. No, I think it just didn't spin last time. Like, it just automatically went on once we plugged that in.
Is this also available on the township website?
It's basically the one that was before. There's a copy in the vestibule as well if you want to follow along. But the newest one will be updated. There's a couple new slides. It's like it's trying to.
There's also paper copies in the lobby.
Yeah, they're right on the table on the left.
Yeah.
Try this line, you go. You tried this port?
No, go ahead. You do it. You're IT. Setting failed, it said. Should we restart the laptop? Want to restart the laptop maybe? Huh? Well, that's an HDMI cable.
Looks like it's on.
Oh, there you go.
Well,
Let's play this right screen.
I think we put,
Okay, it's doing expanded, that's fine.
just close that. I don't know why it's not.
There we go.
Okay, crisis averted. Thank you, Matt. All right, Janice, we good?
We have been actually recording.
Okay. All right, so we're back in session, so to speak, and we're just going to go over the PowerPoint presentation again that we gave, I believe, in the beginning of April. This is the property here, 401 Creek Road, about 11 and a half acres, and kind of a weird triangular design there, located on Creek Road next to the Field of Dreams, backs up to residential houses, and it's right across from 450 and 500, which is also owned by Criterion and the DMV. Here's our fact sheet. As I mentioned, about 11 and a half acres. It's currently zoned in the I-3 district, industrial. This was the only property not included in earlier planning of the redevelopment of that area. Criterion Group is the owner. They're a New York-based real estate company that specializes in commercial outdoor truck storage. They purchased the property in 2021 for $2 million. It was part of a 3-parcel purchase that was deemed unusable by the tax office because it was also it was a part of a 3-party transaction of 450 and 500. Currently, there's 2 businesses in operation there: a machine shop and a power washing company. They actually are winding down operations, as our original contract stated that they had to be vacate the property before our closing, which was originally scheduled on June 10th. So the property was rezoned by Delanco Township in 2023 from I-2 to I-3, which does not permit warehousing. Because of that zoning change, we were sued by Criterion and Farrow Point in August of 23, and part of that settlement was the redevelopment agreement, and that was done in February of 2024. Okay, so Criterion wants to build a truck and trailer repair facility there. They received approvals from the Joint Land Use Board in October of '24 to build that truck and trailer repair facility that also permits outdoor truck storage. The plans included clearing the lot of about 700 trees, paving a large parking lot, which most of the land would be a parking lot, to accommodate the 124 parking spaces for trailers. There's 19 car parking spaces, 10 vehicle service repair bays. They will be using the large existing building that's there, so they will not be building anything new. They'll be demolishing the 2 existing buildings, keeping the building in the front, and their plans also call for 4 drainage basins per the New Jersey DEP stormwater regulations. And you'll see later in the slide we have a actual plan that will show you that. I think it's important to point out that trucks are permitted to be dropped off by tow trucks during the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. So here is Criterion's plan. You can see here Bowler Engineering did this. This is the existing large building here, right here. This is the building in the front. This is a storm basin, storm basin, storm basin, storm basin. So there's 4 total. This entire area here right now is currently trees. There's a little bit of open space here that was cleared out. But this would all be truck parking, so this would all be blacktop. And then you have a very minor buffer here of I think it's 10 to 15 feet, and then there's residential homes that back up in this area here, and then literally right up against the fence here. Over here is the Field of Dreams. This is an overhead drone shot of the property. As you can see, that's that building that they would turn into, I think, 10 truck bays. This would stay, the buildings back here would go, and then this would all be tractor trailers and blacktop. Back here is a small portion of deciduous tree wetlands, and then that's the creek right there. As you can see, residential homes right here and back here, so very close to that property. This is the lot that the county said that they would be willing to discuss doing a land swap with us for the wetlands back here. This is just a mock-up we did showing how many trucks would be possibly parked there. Very similar to across the street here. Okay, so again, we'll just kind of go over the timeline. As I mentioned, they received their approvals for the repair facility in October of last year. The township then approached Criterion about purchasing the property in October of '24. In December, we had an ordinance passed and public hearing for ordinance 26, adopting the ordinance for the purchase of the property. Ms. Fitzpatrick, myself, Mr. Templeton, Mr. Bartlett all voted yes, Mr. Ovett voted no. Moving on, we started the process to get the agreement of sale drafted, and in February, we passed that resolution, 2025-37, authorizing that execution of agreement of sale for the purchase of 401 Creek Road. During that meeting, Mr. Bartlett, Mr. McFadden, myself, and Mr. Ouellette voted yes. Ms. Fitzpatrick was absent. February 10th, we were under agreement with Criterion to purchase the property for $3.5 million, and starting on that day, we had a due diligence period of 95 days to perform our inspections and do our field work, and that has been completed as of today. April 7th, we had a meeting and we passed the ordinance and had our public hearing for ordinance 2025-4, the bond authorizing the acquisition of land and improvements for 401 Creek Road in the amount of $3.6 million. We put an extra $100,000 in there for costs associated with the sale. Mr. Patrick, myself, Mr. Bartlett, and Mr. McFadden voted yes. Mr. Ouellette voted no. Would like to point out that the purchase price is well below the written appraised value of $5.3 million. Okay, so this is the new slide letting you know what's been happening the past few weeks. A petition to protest against incurring the indebtedness in Ordinance 2025-4 was submitted to the Municipal Clerk's office on April 25th, 2025. It was then certified by the Municipal Clerk on May 1st. On May 5th, the Township Committee had a meeting and we passed Ordinance 2025-75, a resolution establishing a ballot question and special election date in response to the petition for referendum on Bond Ordinance 2025-4, which then authorized the funding for the acquisition of 401 Creek Road. At the May 19th Township Committee meeting, just last week, we had Resolution 2025-83 authorizing an emergency appropriation for $70,000. That is to pay for the special election that we have to have in the budget per the NJSA 44-48, and that was adopted. As of now, the next step is the special election, which is scheduled for Tuesday, July 29th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Okay, since our last presentation, we have received ERI's soil and groundwater investigation results on May 15th. They found no areas of concern or remediation necessary. I did read this letter into the record at the last meeting, but basically I'll just kind of summarize. The investigation was limited to the collection of 5 subsurface soil samples, 3 subsurface soil samples, and 1 groundwater sample. The sampling locations were depicted on a map that we received. Soil samples S1 through S5 were collected from a depth of 0 to 0.5 feet and were analyzed for arsenic, lead, and TCL pesticides, which are target compound lists. Samples S1 and S3 were further analyzed for extractable petroleum, hydrocarbons, TCL, semi-volatile organic compounds, TCL PCBs, and target analyte lists, which is TAL metals, TAL metals. The detections reported by the lab did not exceed applicable NJDEP soil remediation standards. Soil samples SB1 through 3 were collected from a depth of 4 to 4.5 feet from borings at the septic field location. They were analyzed for TCL volatile organic compounds and EPH, and no detections were reported by the laboratory. They also sampled groundwater from a temporary well point installed at the septic field and analyzed for TCL volatile organic compounds and semi-volatile organic compounds, and no detections were reported by the lab. So good news there. Okay, so this slide basically goes into why purchasing 401 Creek Road is beneficial to Delanco Township. The township, with input from residents in the future, if this does get passed, will control the future of the property and its use. That's what's important. No additional tractor trailers will be on our roads. No tractor trailer repair facility will be built. We preserve the quality of life for the residential areas in the immediate area of the property and throughout the township, because we're all affected by additional truck traffic. We would maintain and preserve the Field of Dreams Park and Sports Complex. The children and their families deserve to have nice facilities that are not next to an industrial truck facility. We are purchasing the property for 34% below the written appraisal value. 700 trees are slated to be removed. If we purchase it for what we're purchasing it for general municipal purposes, those trees would be preserved. We would preserve the wooded area directly located next to the county-owned Pennington Park and Rancocas Greenway Trail, which is visited by many residents and people from throughout the county. It's also important to point out there will be no truck pollution, additional truck pollution or noise from a repair facility. And of course, there's guidelines that, you know, are associated with contamination and stormwater, but it's only as good as who's monitoring it. So I think it's beneficial that there would be no risk at all for contamination to the site from a truck repair facilities. And of course, that's a sensitive area located along the Rancocas Creek. Cons, so 2025's budget has passed and there's no property tax increase to the residents because of this property that would be purchased. There would be some short-term property maintenance that we would have to do if we did purchase the property, including, you know, securing the buildings for safety. And as of right now, that parcel generates about $23,000 in taxes, but obviously there would be a potential to return it to the market at a greater value, greater tax revenue in the near term if that's what the committee chose to do in the future. Also, this $23,000 does not go to the township in full. The township's portion of that is 33%, and I have a chart later that I will show you kind of breaking down what our tax rate is. So this additional benefit I think is important to point out. There is a potential land swap agreement with the county for this wetlands portion of the property of 401. It's about this small area here, which is right along their trail. See, this line here is their trail, their bike trail for Rancocas Greenway. So they are interested in preserving that to have a buffer. And in turn, this area here that's highlighted in pink has been an eagle's nest buffer, but because they're not federally protected anymore, the county has really no use for this land and would be willing to swap this land that is usable to us and make it part of our Field of Dreams complex park. This doesn't apply anymore because we had to move forward with bundling our existing debt because our bonds expired in June, so we had to move forward without that. This is the from the DEP website, which is still accurate today. This block lot, number is 401 Creek Road, and this portion here, this little green portion, is what's classified as deciduous wood wetlands, and that's the wetlands portion. So it's just a small portion of the entire property. Okay, so we'll kind of go over our budget changes again, because I know that a tax increase has been kind of at the forefront as to why this should not go through. Our budget changes this year and why taxes are increasing, the minimal increase we have is because of these things, these appropriations here. We have a salary expense increase, the township does, of 6.4% or $200,000 because we added a 16th police officer, and we are also hiring a new full-time administrator as Richard is a part-time administrator right now. We have health insurance benefits increase of $80,000. State health benefits continues to go up year over year. They are actually not in a good spot right now financially, and we're not sure if they will continue state health plan benefits. We might have to go a different route. So rates just continue to increase. Unfortunately, that's across the private sector as well. We have a trash collection disposal increase of $35,000 this year because of changes at the facility where we dump the trash, and also we will be starting a new trash contract in December, so we anticipate costs will be increasing. We have allocated one of our public works gentlemen to handle the buildings and grounds maintenance, so we allocated a salary of $130,000 for that. That's not paid out of open space, that's actually in our operating expenses. Previously, we would be using our open space fund for grounds and parks maintenance. Public library aid to Delanco increased $21,400. That is going to be paid to the Delanco School District for utilities. That's anticipated. They're still working on that contract, but we are assisting the school with more of that. We have an increase in reserve for uncollected taxes of $17,000 as a state calculated formula. It's to cover the amount for those who don't pay their taxes, whether it's a township, county, school, or fire district. The township is the collecting entity, and they still have to pay 100% to these people, regardless if you pay your taxes or not, so we have to have a reserve for that. And we also allocated $25,000 for the centennial celebration next year, so we could put deposits down and get ready for that event. I know Recreation does have a plan to fundraise to cover a lot of those costs. And we also have a 20% utility increase that the BPU has approved that everyone will be seeing next month in June. Okay, so our 2025 budget versus last year, in our revenue side, we virtually had no increase in ratables because all the new housing and new warehouses were added to the tax rolls in the last few years. So the budget doesn't have the benefit of having the tax levy spread out over a larger tax base to help moderate the tax increase. So that's one of the things that's affecting us. The New Jersey state aid was reduced $42,000. Which goes back to what our number was in 2022. All towns are seeing the reflection of reduced state aid. Permit fees are down. We don't have any additional building, so that has jumped down $51,000. Other licenses and fees also are affected by that. That was reduced by $10,000, and we also lowered our delinquent taxes by $24,000. This is just a chart showing kind of from 2005 what your taxes looked like, the tax levy looked like, year-over-year changes, and then where we're at here. So in 2005, 1.9 million and change was our tax levy. That's the amount we have to raise from taxpayers in order to pay our bills. Today we're at 5,400,000, and if you see year-over-year kind of what the difference is, percentage change was 250,000 from 2024 to 25, and that's what our tax rate is. Last year was 1.147, this year it's 1.202. So a very minimal tax increase. This is a chart that you can kind of look at as far as what your assessed value is. So the average assessed value in Delanco is $190,000. So, and your property taxes that go to Delanco Township in 2024 was $21.79. This year it'll be $2,284 or $104.50 increase year over year, just the Delanco Township portion. Okay, so this slide is new. I added it just to kind of explain more about taxes. This pie chart will show you that 49% of your tax bill goes to Delanco Township School District, 49%. 33% goes to the municipality. 15% goes to the county, and then 3% is other, which is like open space, fire district, and other things. And then you'll see here, this person, as an example, has a tax bill of $10,423. And you'll see their county tax is $1,250, the county library tax, $106. They have county farmland and open space, $151. And then their school tax is the most at $5,140. Then their municipal tax here, which goes directly to the town, is $33.98. And then you have a open space tax as well, $59. And then you pay your fire district $317, this particular person. So that kind of breaks out. So it always pays to kind of look at your tax bill when you get it so you understand where your hard-earned money is going to. Okay, so this slide just kind of talks about what previous initiatives the township took in the past 30 to 40 years. Just wanted to point some things out here. 2700 Burlington Avenue, that is the warehouse that's on the riverway by the tracks. It was slated to be a cargo ship container port facility. The township spent a lot of money to fight that proposal to make sure our township didn't become a port town, which would be similar to what Gloucester City is today and have big boats coming up and down dropping off shipping containers there. Winsinger, they proposed a recycling facility for demolition debris, which included concrete, asphalt, wood, masonry, bricks, tree stumps, tires. That's what the solar field is right next, a couple of sites down from us here. That was fought by the township successfully to make sure it did not become that. Currently, that site you can find on Martin Highway, right at the Mount Holly bypass, if you want to see what could have been. 2005, I think, which is the most similar situations as to what this is, economic development. A 2005 purchase of Zerberg Mansion for $2.1 million. The township purchased the property and eventually rezoned it to an area of need of redevelopment. There was a juvenile facility for troubled youth that was proposed for that parcel, and the township decided to purchase it. Today, it's home to 27 moderate and low-income senior apartments, and the township was lucky enough to keep that waterfront lot, and that is now what we know as Historic Waterfront Park and what is currently under construction to be an amazing park and will really add value to our town in that area. We also, the township did also purchase that carriage house for $300,000, so they did pretty much break even, but they were able to get the park. They also fought the DEP to protect the West Avenue dunes from continuing to be a dredge spoils dumping site. That was a huge undertaking, and they spent tens of thousands of dollars to make sure that did not happen. Nobody wants to see, more dredge spoils dumped. They're unsightly. They would have dump trucks coming up and down, triaxles coming up and down our streets constantly, and would not be good for our quality of life. Recently, in 2020, they purchased 414 Rancocas Avenue, which is the lot next to Gateway Park where the gazebo is, and they spent $60,000 for that and included a large park expansion, as that park's pretty much double in size now, and Recreation's able to have their Christmas village out there, so it's lovely. Also in 2020, they purchased 200 Ash Street. As a lot of people know, was the canvas factory or shoe factory. It was that tall building, brick building on the creek. They spent $200,000 for demolition for that property, and also demolition engineering was about $209,000. Recently, they've acquired lots on Hawk Island to prevent them from being developed in various different ways. And then, of course, our largest undertaking recently is the Historic Waterfront Park seawall. Installation and the park of that installation of the seawall and the park has been in the project for almost 18 years. Several bonds were approved over the years, totaling about $1.2 million, and that is for the park and the seawall. But that does not include the legal design, engineering, and permitting costs that were associated with it. So what's the plan, right? The township is permitted to purchase property, particularly in the rehabilitation and redevelopment context, to ensure the property is put to its most appropriate use. Purchasing this property doesn't mean we have to hold on to it for forever or even a year. The township can rezone the property to a more appropriate use, and likely some form of residential use with no impact to the schools. We don't intend to keep it in an industrial zone. This is no different than what's happened in Zurbrück Mansion, as I just went over in 2005. The township prevented a negative use and eventually returned all but the waterfront to the market. Economic development. As of right now, the Township Committee does not intend to preserve or otherwise permanently restrict the property to open space. So what I mean by that is, once you designate something as open space, you take open space funds, you are not ever allowed to do anything with it ever again other than have it as open space. So that concludes my PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much. Thank you for listening and taking the time to gain a better understanding as to why we think it's so important that the township moves forward with our purchase of 401 Creek Road. Thank you. You can pop those lights on for me, Rob. Thanks. Not yet. We're going to have comments from the Township Committee now. Are you going to read the rules? Yes, I'm going to read the rules before I open it to public comment. So if anyone from the committee would like to say anything, you are certainly welcome to do so now.
I would like to add a little bit more about the Zurbrück Mansion. When we purchased the Zurbrück Mansion, the state was moving forward with the juvenile detention center because the owner at the time, Larry Stein, was conveying that as a deed in lieu since they could not fulfill the agreement of sale. So the township offered Larry the same amount that he was under contract with for Capital Academy, and he agreed, and we purchased that property. We had hoped to keep that property actually and to use it for public history board, recreation, what have you. It needed too many repairs. It was too costly for us to keep it. So we did finally come to a good use, which was what it currently is. 27 affordable senior residents. There are a few residents from Delanco that live there, but in addition to that, we had townhouses that were built around the perimeter, and they were sold, which gave us a good tax increase. And for each sale, in addition to the taxes, we also received $1,250 for each unit as it was built and sold. So I know there may be some residents here tonight that live in the townhouses. They're beautiful. They do not distract from the Zurbrück Mansion as far as I'm concerned, but they did help us to gain some tax base for the residents. That particular property did not benefit everybody in town, and I know a lot of people have said that about 401 Creek, but in my eyes it does benefit everybody in town because it's a beautiful landscaping area. There's some beautiful townhouses there. We maintained the waterfront property so that we could have a great park, which is coming to fruition, and hopefully that'll be opened in July. So I think it's important for residents to understand that this isn't the first time that the Delanco Township Committee has moved forward to buy a piece of property for the benefit of all the residents of the town. This particular property may be a little more costly than some, but when you put if you were to add up all the different things, the Dunes litigation, we also had issues with Hawk Island, with dredge spoils there. These are all issues that we worked out, but at an expense to the taxpayers, because the professional fees got quite high, especially the Dunes litigation. DEP sued us. We did manage to come out of that, okay, but it still cost the township a large sum of money. So I think that we have always been careful in our spending, and we have done what we have thought was for the betterment of Delanco. The Zerbrook Mansion, when we finally got a buyer for that property, there were 5 members on the township committee. Joan Hinkle and myself were in favor of selling it to Grapevine, who did develop it as it is today. There were 3 other members of the township committee that were against it. One of them's in the audience today. One is also in the audience today who changed his vote to yes so that that development could occur. And thank God he did, because it is a beautiful area. It is a gem in Delanco, and I would like to think that 401 Creek Road is going to become a better use so that we can all look back and be proud of the decision we made for this property. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Kate. Matter Phil, did you want to say anything?
The only thing I want to add, because the PowerPoint, it had pretty much all the information. I'm not going to regurgitate everything that was in there, because I want to get to the residents and hear what they have to say. But I think it's important for everyone to understand this isn't just a little truck repair shop like Safety Auto or any other little garage. This is a commercial fleet truck repair and storage facility. It's storing up to 125 tractor trailers out there. It's not a small little truck repair facility. So I've seen people heard people compare it to a regular local garage like Safety Auto or the BP in town. Nothing like that. Phil?
My concern is, of
Just
course,
pull that mic down.
my concern is, of course, the truck traffic going through town. As you're aware, we have an issue with the flooding over in Delanco Bridge. Our only access at that point is to either go out to 130 and go all the way down and come back through Beverly, or go out to 130 and take the Holiday Ice Cream jug handle there. Thankfully, the county has readjusted the light timing. Unfortunately, my vision of a heavy-duty truck with a trailer, with a tractor attached to it, taking up the whole jug handle as it is, I just don't see it as a benefit to the residents of Delanco.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to read the rules governing public comment period, and then we'll open the meeting up to the public for comments and questions. Pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act and JSA 10-4-12, Delanco Township Committee is entitled to permit, regulate, or prohibit public participation in its meetings. Public participation and comment shall be governed by the following rules to maintain order and prevent disruption of the meeting. Each speaker will have a maximum of 5 minutes to speak and should limit comments to the matter at hand. The speaker will be directed to conclude the remarks once the speaker's time has expired. No time may be yielded to the speaker by another speaker. Groups are asked to select a spokesperson to speak on their behalf. Speakers will address the Township Committee from the podium and are asked to begin the remarks with their name and address for the record. Township Committee members are not obligated to answer impromptu questions or address remarks from members of the public during the public comment period. Speakers should expect the Township Committee to refrain from engaging in a dialogue except to the extent necessary to clarify the speaker's comments. The allotted time for speaking from the podium is the method to address the Township Committee during the public comment period. The Township Committee will not entertain questions or comments called out from the audience. Speakers and members of the public should at all times maintain proper decorum and shall make their comments in a civil manner. Personal attacks, obscenity, derogatory, or slanderous remarks will not be tolerated. So if you'd like to come up to the podium, this meeting is now open to the public for comments and questions. Please state your name and address for the record.
You get hurt with this stuff.
Careful there, Mike.
Trying to be careful. Mike Templeton, 621 Delaware. Repeat some of my remarks that I made at the last meeting and add a little bit more. I don't have new PowerPoint slides, but I'll try to make it clear and concise. So, the things I want to talk about are really the next two steps down the road after the township does acquire the property. As I've said previously, I'm concerned about forthcoming DEP rules on flood zones and how that would affect the ability of the township to turn over the property or sell it or redevelop it to a follow-on use. This goes back to the governor's executive order 100 back in January 2020, which asked various DEP or various state agencies to look at the future of climate change in the state. A couple of years ago, the state brought forth their the Inland Flood Protection Rules, IFP. That was July of 23. That had a several-year gestation since that EO 100, and that really deals with increased flooding due to increased rainfall from climate change and so forth, and increase the flood elevations. Revisions to the Flood Hazard Area Control Act and Stormwater, major revisions to all that. As a result of that, the township had to update our Chapter 65, our flood damage prevention ordinance. We did that last year, and that adds for the FEMA 100-year flood zone 3 feet locally and pretty much statewide. Following that was the state, the follow-on regulations, which are expected to be enacted this summer or fall, or the New Jersey REAL Rules, Resilient Environment and Landscapes. That rulemaking started back in March of 2020, and it regulates the waters, wetlands, riparian zones, which are the transition areas between waterways and the upland areas, and stormwater. It establishes the climate-adjusted flood elevation, which is the FEMA 100-year plus 5 feet. And that's found on the website, DEP's website, flood indicator tool. And it also establishes an inundation risk zone, and that's for tidal flood zones. Back in November, I had sent an email to Hugh Doherty, who's the planning board engineer, who dealt in detail with the 401 project as that was going through that process. And his response of November 25th, Mr. Doherty says the site is considered a tidal flood hazard area. And going forward, several paragraphs down in the email that you all have had received over several occasions, going forward, the township would be proceeding at risk due to the uncertainty of these new rules. The inundation risk zone is based on tidal flooding. It's forecast for the next couple decades through the end of the century. And looking at Lot 11 with the new flood mapper tool that's on the DEP website, and this is what it looks like when you get to it. About 7 of the nearly 12 acres of Lot 11 is affected by this new rule. So whatever you do there, or whatever a subsequent owner does there, it's going to have to comply with, higher elevations for the lowest habitable floor. It's going to have to be basically storm-proof. It has to have the required structures within the flood hazard area be designed to resist uplift, flotation, collapse, displacement due to hydrostatic, hydrodynamic forces, which is proposed, or instead of, is proposed to be updated
to refer to buoyancy, collapse, and displacement. That's how the proposed regulation. In addition to that, there's a risk assessment that's required to be done by the owner of the property, and that's supposed to that's a required state requirement that identifies the potential economic and other costs to the current and future property owners, including government entities, for activities on public land associated with the project for future flooding and inundation risk. Construction with the flood hazard area carries inherent and specific long-term risks that are likely to be severely exacerbated due to changing climate. It is important that the owner of the site, not the applicant or agent, provide a written record attesting to the realities of said risk. The New Jersey League of Municipalities, a group of municipalities and their entity that distributes information that's useful for government officials and so forth. Their briefing paper on the real rules, municipalities will face significant limitations on new development and redevelopment that may affect property values, implications for insurance costs. I think there's an appraisal that you mentioned that's been circulating. I believe the effective or the that was valid as of October last fall. Looking at that appraisal, there's no mention that there's a flood zone existing at present. There's no mention in the appraisal of what could happen with the implementation of these new rules. So that obviously would affect the value at the current level. It would obviously affect the value going forward for any opportunity the township look to sell the property or turn it over to a new buyer. So I believe this is all important information for you to consider and for the public to be aware of. This is out there. And that's kind of the nutshell right there. So a lot of information here. I'm glad Mr. Fox is here and our solicitors are here that may have comments on that. Just a final word, the list that you have of all the parks and open space and preservation and things over the last 20 years, the last 18 years that I was heavily involved in many of those. It's a point of gratification that I feel I had a significant impact in the Zurbrick waterfront, suggesting that the township retain that, West Avenue and the litigation, working with Mr. Heinhold and so forth, and Steve, and many days in the courtroom, sitting in the back row there listening to the litigation with the state. So it's a good feeling that these things are there. The Winsinger property, or the concrete crushing facility that was proposed, I got into looking at that permit and found that Winsinger had in error significant misrepresentations and contact DEP, and the permit was revoked. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That was 7 minutes, but I did let you finish it. Professional courtesy. Just before you get up, I just want to give a chance to respond. Yes, you were integral in those projects, and thank you again for mentioning the flood stuff. I'm going to let Harry talk about that. But I think it's important too to note that you did support us in December by voting yes to move forward with this project as well. So I don't know where you stand today, but I know in December you were on board with it. So yeah.
Take 3 seconds.
Sure.
My vote then was to give the remaining time in December and the oncoming governing body the time to really think about this. That's important. Time and space and getting all the information you can to make a good decision, because you just don't want to make mistakes.
Sure.
Especially on this amount of money, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yes, thank you. And I think we've done a pretty good job, doing our due diligence and exploring, the different ways that we can move forward with this. So, Harry, did you want to talk about, take a few minutes and kind of talk about the flood concerns that Mr. Templeton has, maybe in detail?
Sure, sure.
Microphone.
You can just pull it forward if it's not, yeah.
Won't bite you, we promise.
First of all, Mike, you were pretty much on point with everything you said. I mean, there's a real bill that's coming out. The issues with that are, right now, it's in the stage, they've been public comment. They're expecting September-ish to adopt this bill. The bill, there's no indication of when it will take effect. That's something that's going to be decided after they adopt the bill. So typically on bills like this, it takes several years to implement that. They don't, once it's passed, you have to follow those guidelines. We don't know what that time limit is, but there will be some period, probably a couple of years, of time that you have to apply.
There is a lot of, excuse me, Harry, but there is a lot of objection to that bill that I've read recently.
Well, there definitely is.
Yeah, and that, I know it's going to be a topic of our, on our agenda coming up, so, it may not pass. I don't know if that's possible, that enough municipalities object, if that happens, or if they'll just, agree to accept it anyway.
Absolutely possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely possible. And the people that it really hurts more than anyone are the people on the coast. That's where it's really kind of geared towards. We are included in that, but that's not the real main goal of this bill. So yeah, anything got passed there, we don't know what's going to happen with elections, we don't know any of that stuff. Just like anything else with the DEP, they're constantly changing all of their rules, and you have to abide by them as it happens. The existing site plan for the trucking facility received permits from DEP to fill some of the floodplain area. And those permits, actually all the permits that they received, are valid for 5 years. If development is put up similar to what that facility is, and possibly the residential one's less impactful, those permits may carry over to be used to be able to fill some of the area. You don't know until you apply to DEP on that. That's not a possibility. Thirdly, what the major impact of this site will be in this bill is they're basically raising the flood elevation by 5 feet to account for sea level rise. So anything built within an elevation 5 feet higher than the floodplain elevations out there now would have to be able to be built to withstand flood. Or they're actually allowing filters to go in, so they can fill the ground around your area to raise the building so it's not in the flood zone. We did take, and Matt that might Southampton downloaded, shows the area, goes assumed area of the new inundated area. I actually plotted from the topography plan the elevation adding the 5 feet. The area in reality is a little bit less than what shows on the state plan. The state plan is just they use aerial photographs and things like that to determine their lines. When you actually go to develop it, you physically do a topography plan and line out where that elevation is, where in theory, in 75 years, about 75 years, the flood level will be. Because that's what this is geared towards. It's geared towards the year 2100. At that time, they figured the sea level rise would be 5 feet. So that's what it's all geared towards. And it's really, it's not for stopping development. It's just making sure that when people build things in the area, they're accounting for this 5 foot rise in sea level. So we don't have catastrophic losses of buildings and houses and safety issues. It includes infrastructures, things like that. They want to make sure it's safe. The bill itself is 1,044 pages. So it's like any other document in government. It includes a lot of other things in there. A lot has to do with the windmills off the coast. It has to do with green infrastructure. It has to do with a lot of things, and this is only one small part, actually, of the bill that would affect us. And I don't feel that with the site that's there, all the existing buildings would be out of the, even using the state map, would be out of that inundation zone. The front portion's out of it. There is possibly, they would have to, we would have to do a study and do a report on what the effects of the development would be due to this flood. Not a major undertaking. At this time, it really doesn't look like it would hinder the development of that property. Maybe there would be less area for actual buildings. Maybe, and what's starting popular now is they put, because we're talking about finished floor elevations. It's very popular that they build condos with garages underneath. So the garage can be part of the building, and then the building is raised up above the flood elevation, and there's no issues. So there's really a lot of ways around that bill, if it even passes, that it could offer can certainly. And we do private work as well, and we would look for ways and innovative ways to make the lot available. I don't see any major concerns.
Okay. Thank you, Harry. Sir, did you want to come up next?
Good evening. Austin Dasher, 2405 Burlington Ave. I want to start by thanking you for giving us this opportunity to hear more about this proposal and to ask some questions. I think it's important to have a well-informed electorate, and I believe that giving people as many opportunities to learn and discuss this is going to be very important. I love Delanco, it's where I grew up, and I'm absolutely interested in learning more about this decision that is going to have long-term ramifications for myself and what I hope to be a future family here. I plan on being here for quite some time. I mention all of this because I have several questions regarding the potential tax implications that the proposed purchase of the property is going to have on the average Delanco resident. I believe it's important to gain a clear understanding of how this $3.6 million acquisition is going to impact the taxpayers, both immediately and over the long term. My intent is not only to ensure that I have accurate information myself, but to provide clarity for the rest. Based on information you provided in your presentation, a resident with a home with an assessed value of $190,000 can expect a $104 increase already right off the bat. We expect that coming down the pipeline. Is that correct?
Not because of the purchase. That's just
I'm aware it's not because of the purchase.
Yes.
It's just
this year's tax
coming
increase.
down the pipeline
Correct.
regardless.
Yes.
And that estimated $104 increase does not include the impact that'll be coming due to the school bond that was taken out for $3.5 million, correct?
The school has released their tax rate, and taxes will not be going up due to that.
At all?
Nope.
No increase
I think they went
whatsoever?
down, actually.
Okay. So do we have any idea what the potential interest rate on this $3.6 million bond is going to be?
No, because we can't go out to bond because the referendum bond was killed, so we can't even look at that right now.
Well, I suppose I'm interested why the town would purchase a piece of property without knowing how much an interest rate would be. Even a ballpark would probably be pretty reasonable to acquire, as I don't imagine an estimate changed by some insane amount based on what an estimate would come in down. So just as a regular resident of the town, I wouldn't, and I'm sure many other people, wouldn't purchase a house, a piece of property, a car, or any other kind of major purchase without knowing what the insurance rate or monthly payments are going to be. Speaking of long term, I am also very concerned at the lack of a concrete plan for this $3.6 million purchase. I've heard some mentions of a potential land swap. However, last I heard it was only a verbal discussion, and you, Mayor, said that no, it's all very unofficial. Has there been any follow-up on this?
I'll let you finish your comments, and we can answer your questions at the end.
Oh, I got a lot more coming.
Go ahead. You got 2.5 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure why this whole process has remained unofficial and was not involved in the presentation if it became official. I think that would be very relevant information for the taxpayers to know. Another option you guys mentioned was possibly turning it into some kind of housing development. And have any developers been contacted to gauge interest, or any estimates been done looking at the potential additional costs needed to get the land ready for that?
We'll answer all your questions at the end of 5 minutes.
Okay, do you want to mark down bullet points for these questions so we don't forget?
I'm good, thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I've also heard mention of selling it off to another party. While I certainly would love to be an optimist about this purchase, have there been any calculations about what happens to our taxes if the town can't sell it? Is there any coverage for if we need to recover that $3.6 million? Oh, still waiting, okay. Because based on what I'm gathering here, it looks like you guys don't have a plan for what will happen if we do buy it, and you also don't have a contingency plan for if we can't sell it. Based on all the information I have at this time, this committee appears to be proceeding rather hastily with this proposed acquisition of a $3.6 million bond for the purchase of 401, without presenting a comprehensive or clearly articulated plan regarding the intended use of this land or the strategy for recouping the substantial expenditure of the taxpayers' funds. The current proposals lack the necessary depth, specificity, and financial prudence expected in matters involving the public's tax dollars, especially in this amount. It is fiscally irresponsible to commit such a significant purchase without providing us with clear, detailed information on the purpose, projected costs to the taxpayers, or the long-term implications of this investment. The absence of a clear and actionable plan raises serious concerns about the stewardship of the taxpayers' dollars and the accountability of this committee, and I am sincerely and very much against this purchase. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Raymond. Mr. Raymond, did you want to speak on to why, the bond and what that's about?
So, again, as the mayor pointed out during your presentation, we can't get a finalized number on the bond rate until the bond is approved. So we don't have a finalized number. Again, we have to go out to the special election because there was the objection filed to the referendum or there was a bond because the bond ordinance there was the objection to. Now we have to have that special election. With regard to the point of what would happen if the township were not able to sell the property, again, obviously it would be bonded. The township would have to pay off the bond.
So, as I've stated in several meetings before, the purpose of the why we're buying this is for general municipal purposes, and that has to be classified as that, so the bonds are not taxable. If we were going to buy this with the intention of rebuilding on it, keeping it as green space or doing anything else, the bonds would then become taxable. Therefore, they have to be classified as general municipal purpose. Right now, if you look at the bond market and recent bonds that have been sold in New Jersey, the interest rate's right around 4%. Obviously, we can't say what our interest rate would be because that wouldn't be until August, if it does get approved. So right now, if you can track the interest rates that way. I understand it's frustrating to not have the Township Committee present a full and concise plan as to what our plans are. Understand that, if this purchase does go through and we buy it, it would be a process. In January, it might be 2 new people sitting up here. So we can't obviously commit to what would be done by another Township Committee. So that's why that is what is happening as far as that. So did anybody else want to answer any of his questions?
I did want to make a point that we cannot have a plan because we want to sell the bonds for municipal use. You can't have the plan, as Carolyn said, they would be taxed. But the sewer authority,
they would be taxed and it would be a higher interest rate as well.
Interest rate,
yes.
Right. But the sewer authority bonded for our project that we did, our relining project, and the bonds were sold in May, and we won't have the official payment amount to us, according to our bond attorney, who is part of our solicitor, it's Tom Coleman, maybe at our meeting in June, but maybe not till August. So it's not something that you can project because of the market. That's how the bond market works. So even if we were to bond today, we may not have those figures on the payments and what have you for a month, 2 months, or 3 months. And I only learned that through being on the sewer authority. So what we're doing is what we can do. And just like with the Zerbrook Mansion, we were able to sell the property so that we could recover some land and the amount that we paid for it. And that is really what we hope to do here, but to have it as a better use than a truck repair facility that has already been approved from the Joint Land Use Board with their permits from DEP. So this flood elevation is not affecting that. There's one other development in town, which is Creekside, which is right off of Burlington Avenue on your way towards Beverly on the right-hand side. And if you notice, those homes, I don't know if anybody is here from Creekside, but those homes are elevated much higher because of bogs and ditches right there, much higher than the other homes in Delanco. I don't believe it was a requirement of the Joint Land Use Board, but the developer wanted to protect the homeowners who purchased the property. So I can see where those efforts have been used in other areas of Delanco.
So just circling back on the issue of the bond, so the useful life of that property is 40 years, so they could bond out for 40 years if they wanted to for that. The township would do what's called a bond anticipation note, and we have 9 years to do that. So we have 9 years to do short-term funding before we have to go out to commit to long-term funding. So the first 3 years, we only have to pay interest on that loan. We don't have to pay principal. Year 3 is when the principal would then kick in. So in my mind, if the township wanted to, make the best use of their investment, they would do something with that property within the first 3 years before the principal payment would actually come due. So they do give you that little bit of a grace period, but again, you have 9 years to do short-term funding with which a bond anticipation note gets renewed every year. So every year, like I mentioned in my presentation, your debt gets renewed at a new interest rate. So what we bonded out for last year gets renewed again in June, and then they have a new interest rate. So that's what a short-term note is. And you had mentioned the school. The school did bond out for $3.5 million for the roof referendum. They did do a budget presentation, and their tax rate actually did go down, so there will be no school tax increase this year. Hi, Vera.
Are you ready for me?
I'm always ready for you, sure.
Thank you. I'm really interested in the area.
Just name and address for the record, Vera.
Oh, yeah. Vera Dharma, 605 Hickory Street. I'm very much interested in the area because I love nature, and I know a lot of people now, they're very much on the, some people are on the edge financially because of all the inflation and the rate increases. So that's why I actually signed the petition to do the referendum, because even though I would be willing to financially sacrifice to pay for this land, it's very important for me. I know I don't want certain people to be maybe even pushed out of Delanco because of taxes. I want to stay here. I want this area to be affordable for my children to stay here. My one child has a house here, and I love Delanco, and a big reason is because of people like Mike Templeton, who did so much to preserve so much of nature here, and I'm really thankful for those efforts. My question is, I think I remember in the slide presentation, you said if the purchase goes through, we'll be able to preserve the wooded area located directly next to the Pennington Park. Did I remember that correctly?
You're talking about the land swap with the county?
Well, yes, if this goes through. But if it doesn't go through, is the environmentally sensitive, the land that's very environmentally sensitive near Pennington Park, the truck facility can't cut that down and fill that in, correct?
You're talking about the wetlands portion? Yes. Harry, do you know what the anticipated future is for the wetlands there on their plan?
On their plan, they actually determined that there were no wetlands on the property. So that they're building right up to the property line essentially.
So whatever that boundary is, That's where they're going to be building up to?
Pretty close, yes.
Okay.
The
And I
lot
s-
line.
There's a buffer berm in there, but
Okay.
talking
And
so-
I saw a lot of what are they called, stormwater basins, is that what it's called? Now, if a development went in there, would there be the same amount of stormwater basins?
Probably not,
Or a lot fewer?
correct. With that facility, as you can see by the site plan, there's a massive parking lot, it's an impervious area.
Okay, yeah, that makes
Requirements
sense.
for-
Yeah, because the water couldn't go through. My other question is, if those regulations pass, raising the floodplain, is that how you say it? How would you say
It's
that?
raising the floodplain elevation.
Okay, and it becomes a little bit more difficult for the developer. Would we ever consider giving them a pilot program to make it more attractive?
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine that we would, but like I said, I couldn't speak for a committee down the road.
But the
I'm not in
people here
favor
would
of
not-
pilots.
Nobody here would consider a pilot for the developer, is that correct?
I would never consider that.
Me either.
They don't get, the school gets no money for it.
Right.
From the taxes. I would never do that to our schools. We
Okay.
already have way too many pilots in this town.
There, as you know, all of us are really involved with going to school board meetings and being involved in the school and making sure they're making good decisions and, it affects our town. So we try to go to as many school board meetings as possible, and a lot of times we're the only ones there. So we do support our schools, and pilots don't support our schools.
Okay, those are my questions, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Gary.
Gary Cooper, 3 Edwards Avenue. I also lived at 912 Burlington Avenue.
Sorry, one second. Say that one more
Repeat
time.
that?
Gary Cooper, 3 Edwards Avenue. I also lived at 912 Burlington Avenue for a long time. I lived on 517 2nd Street for a long time. I've been a resident for basically 65 years. In the last 20 years, this town has really gone downhill. It's being overcrowded, it's being overbuilt. We don't have an emergency squad. A lot of people, I walk 10 miles a day all around town for the last 2.5 years. A lot of people don't even know that we don't have an emergency squad. The fire department is undermanned, and I understand it's for volunteers, and there's an issue with that as well. The police has picked up, but the crime rate's going up. The school system is a mess. Look at Walnut Street School. When I went here, there was 3 schools. Now you're cramming all into one, and it's a mess. It can't be that you can allow this town to build more condos and more houses. It's overcrowded as it is, and it can't handle it. The sewer system alone with Beverly. We could have built a sewer plant, didn't do that either. The water system's a mess. You better pick off your tails and think about not building ourselves out of a town. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Todd, before you start, just real quick, Mr. Cooper, you're 100% correct. We don't have the squad anymore. 100%. They should be paying attention.
Did you put it out in email?
Yes, we did, actually. We did, 100%. We did, and the reason we don't have a squad anymore is because lack of volunteers.
Delran has a paid squad, they've had it for years.
Correct.
My wife was on back in the 80s.
Mhm.
They took the money from the 3 ambulances and all, and hired a paid squad during the day.
We have a contract with Delran EMS. That's who handles our EMS. Okay.
And the same issue with the fire.
How much are we paying Delran?
It's 30-something, I don't have the number in front of me, it's 30-something thousand a year.
Let's give an ambulance too.
36.
They don't own the ambulance, they're using the ambulance. They do not own it.
And if they make a call on Delanco, do we still have to pay them for being out of town?
No. And it's the same issue with the fire department, as you mentioned. We're short members. Anyone in the room, stick an application, not just you, Mr. Cooper, anyone in the room, you want to join the fire department, please submit an application. There's, understood, but the majority of the town.
They just can't handle it. And we keep building and building and building and building and building. It's got to stop somewhere.
Understood.
But you keep shutting in people.
But again, if anyone would like to join the fire department, we're taking members. You can see Lieutenant or Captain Hubler in the back of the room.
Oh, I'll understand if it's zoned for that in this town. The Joint Land Use Board has no authority to just deny it, because they don't want it there. The Joint Land Use Board has to approve an application if it meets all the criteria.
You're buying land and keep open space. Everybody'd rather pay for the open space and have more condos in there.
Well, I mean, if we're going to buy and preserve, $3.6 million and preserve it, there's going to be tax implications. But all I keep hearing is that we don't want our tax to increase. So, I mean, we can't have it both ways, unfortunately.
What happened to the rules? What happened to the rules?
I'm responding, so, yes, thank you. So we'll go ahead and, thank you. We'll go ahead and allow Mr. Burke to have his comments. Let me just reset the timer.
Lenny, it's fine. You said there would be some.
Yeah, it's a town hall, so, I mean, we're trying to be, as much back and forth as possible and not so formal, so. Okay, I'm going to start your timer, Mr. Burke. Go ahead.
Todd Burke, 1506 2nd Street. And my concerns here, and thank you, by the way, for the show and for this town hall, which, of course, I suggested months ago and is months too late to be really effective, but nonetheless, here we are. Now, my concerns are with governmental transparency and sticking to the subject on this $3.6 million referendum, which is only about a bond issue, and I don't think that we should allow other issues to obscure the fact that the referendum is only about a bond. So, on that note, I note that apparently the board has received numerous documents, including appraisals, environmental studies, et cetera, that none of which have been publicly published and distributed to the residents. Is that correct? I'll take that as a yes. Your fallback, my time.
You asked us a question.
My time.
Okay, so here's what we'll do. We'll let you do your 5 minutes, and then we'll answer all your questions at the end.
Have you stopped the stopwatch in the meantime?
Yep, go ahead. I'll put another 30 seconds on for you.
Your fallback position is for everyone to file over request, which is an unnecessary burden and not in keeping with transparent, responsible local government, correct? I'll take that as a yes.
Mr. Burke, with all fairness, if you want us to respond, ask us a question. If you don't want us to respond, don't ask us a question, and then complain when we respond.
It's my time right now.
Then don't ask us a question, Mr. Burke. You're asking us a question.
You have to watch and let me ask my questions. And you can go through, just like with the other speakers, take notes and answer my questions at the end. Right now, you're stepping on my time.
Well, then don't say, I take that as a yes. Mr. Burke, I'm speaking. If you're asking us a question and you're going to say...
stepping on my time,
I'll give you an extra minute.
Let me speak.
No. If you're asking...
I'm speaking now.
Actually, I'm speaking now, Mr. Burke.
Okay.
If you're asking us a question, I'll give you time, don't worry. If you're asking us a question and we don't answer because you don't want us to, and then you say, I'll take that as...
when I'm done speaking, just like...
Then don't say, I'll take that as a yes. Don't say, I'll take that as a yes when we're not responding to your question. You're putting words in our mouth.
By saying, I take that as a yes, you're inviting a response, sir. So if you don't want the response, then don't add the, I'll take that as a yes. Make your comments and let them respond.
Oh, okay, thank you, Counselor. The latest appraisal in 4 months shows a 25% increase, a $1.3 million increase in those 4 months with no proof, no evidence as to why suddenly that property magically increased 25% in value over 4 months. Right?
We're not going to answer.
You passed in April or May of this year a resolution which says in part, it's 2025-75, that the township is currently under contracting, cannot wait for the November general election date, and therefore must hold a special election for determination on the question. There's no facts, there's no evidence to back that up. Instead of blowing $70,000, you could have withheld it to the November election because the solicitor put it in the contract that if the bond doesn't go through, that everyone walks away, clean hands, we're done with it. There's no rush. There's no other buyers out there. It has never been for sale. I understand that it's not for sale now because it's under contract. It's never been up for sale. I won't ask the question about whether or not that's correct. Okay? The interpretive statement, which apparently and hopefully not seems to possibly be attached to the referendum issue, confuses the entire issue. It's partisan, it's prejudicial. This vote on this referendum, without any of these other issues, is only about, do we approve of the bond, yes or no? Now, today we found that on the website, the municipal website, there was an unsigned, allegedly authoritative partisan statement, and there have been partisan statements and videos on the municipal website, which I think is improper. And that one that was posted today was attributed to someone, it was unsigned. It was also factually wrong, but that's okay. That's a big problem, attaching partisan statements and videos to a municipal website. That's a real big problem, all right? If you don't understand that that's a problem, look up the rules, because it's a problem. Now, I posted something to the residents of Delanco website this morning at 3 o'clock. It took 6 hours to get it posted. I also posted it to another website on Facebook called Uncensored Riverside Delanco, and it got posted in 2 minutes and generated a lot of response. And when my post to Delanco residents was posted today, it generated a lot of response. But it was held for 6 hours, and I don't understand why. So those are my concerns, that this governmental action is not transparent. You're not providing all the information to the residents. You're making us peek around the corners for this kind of information. And number 2, that the issue is only about approving the bond, yes or no, and that's why I certainly will be voting no on July 29th. Thank you.
Okay, so the statement, you have 30 seconds left if you want to, you're done? Okay. I added reset your timer. So the Facebook group that you're posting had 12 posts that weren't posted today because 12 things were posted all at once, approved at once, because the administrators have jobs and they don't sit on Facebook all day long to sit there and approve posts. So there was 12 posts in the queue that were all approved at once. If you go back, you can see they were all approved at the same time. So nobody is trying to censor you or anything else on the unofficial Facebook group.
Really? And who are the administrators, Ms. Seuss?
Myself and
You
Paula.
are?
Yes, I've been administrator on that page for 10 years. So it's not something new. And Paula, yes. Both of us have jobs. I spend half the day at the township and half the day doing work at my house for 2 other jobs that I have. $350 a month doesn't pay my bills, so I don't sit on Facebook all day. Regarding the documents that were submitted in response to your misinformation online, that was drafted by our attorney, and they're not partisan responses. Those responses were drafted by our attorney, as stated in the document, that they were input information from our township solicitor. So he drafted those responses to your misinformation. The information from ERI that was sent is now on the website. That was posted yesterday. We did receive, as of today, the full environmental assessment report. So I know you have an outstanding OPA request. And now that we have that, that information will be provided to you within the time frame allowed by the state.
How about posting it to the public, to all the taxpayers, to the residents?
And it will be
Put it on the
posted.
website,
Thank
distribute
you.
it somehow.
Yes, but Township Committee had to look at it first before we shared it with the township. So we just got it today, and the Township Committee got it today
But
up on the
you don't do
dais.
that with any documents.
All the documents, what documents are not provided, sir?
How about the initial phase 1? I understand that's not public because the seller paid for it. Don't you think it would be nice? You guys have seen it. How about if we get to see it?
You have a copy.
No, I don't.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's not public record because it's not our property, right,
Correct.
Mr. Raymond?
That's not
Yeah.
that's not a public document that can be shared. It's a document that was shared with us as part of the due diligence period. It's not a public record that can be shared at this time. It's not our property to share.
So that's that. The environmental report, my presentation is up there. This will be posted tomorrow so that the public can access that as well. Mr. Fox can also talk about his report shortly once we get through this. So I don't know how more transparent we can be, other
Well,
than having.
you can try to explain how a property increased 25% in 4 months.
I don't know what you mean by that.
It was appraised in October of last year at $4 million, and
No.
now in February it's $5.3 million.
Incorrect. There was a verbal appraisal done by the appraiser back in that time frame.
And that came back
So let me finish, please. We consulted an appraiser so the township would have an idea of what our investment would be, what our offer would be, to make sure we were in line with what it needed to be. That cost $4,000. A full appraisal cost $8,000. So when we offered that, we wanted to make sure we had a good idea of what the value was, so we got the verbal appraisal at that point. Once the full appraisal was ordered at the beginning of this year, way more goes into that. You look at rents, you look at comparables, you look at square footage, you look at approvals. It's way more detailed processes, which is why it costs $8,000. So then came back at 5.3. We have nothing to do with that. That is a professional commercial appraiser that did that, and I can't sit here and testify or say anything as to why that changed. It's not. I have no idea.
Well, since I still have some time left, what happens if with your real estate speculation with taxpayer money, you can't resell the property and then we're stuck with a bond at a loss?
I don't know what to say. No, I mean, at that point, we
shrug shoulders,
no, at that point, we would have to address it at that, but you're making an assumption that it's not going to sell. What are two things that don't lose value?
You're making an assumption that it will sell.
You're continuing to interrupt me, which is very unprofessional.
Well, you've interrupted me.
No, I've answered your questions and given you your time to speak. So when you buy a property that's, land, what don't we have in New Jersey? What is being absorbed constantly? Land. What are two things in the world that don't lose? Land and gold that don't lose value? It's just the way it is. This economy, if you look back 20 years, land continues to appreciate because we can't produce it. We can't make more land. So that's all I can say.
Yeah. And what happens if it can't be resold, given construction costs, the unstable economy, everything else? And we're stuck with a bond.
That's your opinion.
In the meantime, you're banking on our money being used for real estate speculation, and I object to that.
Understood. You've made that very clear. Thank you. Anyone else wish to make any comments?
Harold Klingler, 509 Buttonwood Street. This might be a question, I guess, for the engineer. I listened to some other engineers at one time, and I'm not an engineer or an expert or anything, but they had talked about the wetlands up in North Jersey, and they built some big stadiums up there in the wetlands. And the result of that is several towns around that area ended up being flooded that were never flooded before. And the point that he brought up is whenever you build on wetlands or even near there, that weight pushes down and then it hits the water and the water spreads out from the weight and it goes somewhere else because the water just don't disappear. It goes somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And that's, Kate brought up earlier about the housing development that's up there by
Creekside.
Mm-hmm. If that developer built those houses up almost like mounds, mainly because that area up there is all wetlands, and that even though they built that up, they brought more weight in there, and then they put more weight on top of it. And the water that was underneath there somewhere had to go somewhere. Now, I know that some people in this town have flooding in their basements that never had flooding before. They may be near those areas where they built all those townhouses and condos and that's housing in that wetlands area. And I don't know if this town can stand one more building anywhere, really. I mean, we're surrounded by water, just about. There's lots of wetlands everywhere. And I don't know if we could just stand even one more building in this town. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And just so you know, our commercial building code does allow 75% impervious coverage. So they are allowed to build commercially. They can cover 75% of the lot in impervious coverage, meaning blacktop, concrete, rocks, and stuff like that. So.
And Hal, I do feel your same concerns about, the wetlands and building. As Mike Templeton puts it, we're surrounded on 3 sides by water, 4 when it rains. And, it's definitely an issue. And I see paving this entire lot for this truck parking area. I see that as a big issue for that area. And, I'm not an engineer.
I understand all that.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't understand is whether, like the mayor said, well, under the rules for the town, they're allowed to do all this paving and all this stuff. I don't understand how the county or the state would even allow it, or allow the township to allow them to do it. I don't understand that at all. So because the water affects everybody.
Sure.
It's got to go somewhere.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Liz Mattisette, 304 Center Avenue. I've been a resident in Delanco for well over 30 years, and I just wanted to clarify a couple things. So if the bond is voted down and the town is not able to purchase the property, the developer who now owns the property is shovel ready. Like, he has all his permits, he has his approvals, he can go out the next day and start building?
He has those approvals. I don't know of any permits.
Okay.
Harry, do you know of any?
Yeah, he has his land use board permit as well as DEP permits, but he would have to receive county permits, county soil erosion permits. We would do a bond estimate for the performance bonds, things like that. So there's some housekeeping that would need to be done for the bill. But essentially, he has the right now to start building that facility.
Right, so he could move pretty quickly and start building.
And that is, they haven't told us any otherwise. So that's kind of what their plan is, to move forward with that if this does not go through.
Okay. And I guess they're agreeable to the delay that the referendum, the vote is.
Yes, there will be something on our agenda Monday night to extend the contract.
So I am in favor of purchasing the property. I have a lot of thoughts about what should be done with the property if the town is successful. We've talked about, and maybe it's premature to discuss this, but we've talked about, in your presentation, you talk about 700 trees and preserving, but then you say there is no intent to preserve the property. So I think that's kind of...
To permanently put it on the Rossi list, to make it open space, permanently.
Right. Well, I mean, if you purchase it and make it open space, that would be permanent.
Right.
So...
if you classify it as open space, yeah. If you just leave it as general municipal purposes and don't classify it, yes.
So it would be my preference if it, stays mostly forested. And like I said, I think that's premature. I think our real question here is no other issue than, should the town purchase it? And because do we want that truck facility there? And is that going to benefit the town? And sometimes development seems like a really good deal, but when it's in its spot doing what it does, it can cost the town, and it kind of negates some of the tax benefits that the town may think they're getting. So I think that's an important consideration. There are services that will have to be supplied even to a commercial property. There will be, perhaps issues with residents that the town will have to deal with. If that facility is built, there may be drainage issues and things like that. So development, tax ratables are not always without their negative benefit as far as that goes. So that's all. I just wanted to, know that if the referendum is voted down, that the truck facility will pretty much a done deal. So
Yeah, that's
thank you.
definitely-
And I want to thank you guys for all the materials you've put together. As a former government employee, I understand that it's, you have timeframes and receiving documents and review periods for documents, things like that. We talk about the new wetlands regulations that might be in the pipeline. I know that, once the legislation, if it gets approved, if there's regulations that are going to be associated with that, they have to get written. They have to have a comment period. So I think there's probably a fairly big lead time for that affecting any development that's, currently on the table. So.
For sure. Government doesn't move quick. A state government especially.
Well, they try their best.
Yeah. That's a lot of red tape. So.
And I
Thank
think,
you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
yeah, I think on Liz's point about the taxes, she brought that up, the property right now is taxed at $23,000 some odd dollars. If this fleet commercial truck repair facility goes in there, there's going to be little to no tax increase on that because they're not changing anything with the buildings. It'll be minimal per our tax assessor. They're paving the parking lot, which is minimal assessment. We're not going to get this big windfall of hundreds of thousands of dollars for this fleet repair facility going in there.
And we don't receive the 23,000. I think out of the 23, we get a little over 7.
Yeah, 33%.
I wanted to address one thing that Liz had mentioned.
Okay, just pick the mic up.
Oh, okay. Liz, I don't know if you were aware, but when we purchased 200 Ash Street, the residents did come in. We gave them the opportunity to make suggestions as to what they would like to see there. And so we have designated that as a park area. We have reviewed it. We've walked it. We've had our planner and our engineer take a look at it. And we have some nice plans for an open space park there. So we do take into consideration residents' requests or likes or dislikes. And so I just want you to know that. I mean, Mike has done a lot of work on this committee, and so have I. I've actually been here longer than Mike, and I've always had the interest of the residents at heart. So he's not the only one up here saving our environment and our open space. I just want you to know that. I've worked very hard for Delanco to do that. So we will keep that into our consideration if we are able to purchase this property.
Yes, I mean, that's what we're elected by the taxpayers to speak on behalf of the taxpayers. That's why our government is set up the way it is, and that's what we intend to do, is to get public input if we do move forward with this. Michelin Wine?
Joanne Wine, 316 Oakford Avenue. At one of the earlier meetings, I came up and I asked about strategic planning. And I want to mirror your words in thanking all of you for your tireless commitment to this township. Sitting through your budget meetings, I learned so much. And what came very clear to me was, if I'm still correct in my remembrance, well, there are 40 pieces of property in Delanco that have been undeveloped yet. That might be somebody that has a double lot, a triple lot, This is a big deal. And I think about what I learned from your process, and certainly what I've learned from the school board process, is the lack of revenue. It was made very clear, as you noted in the presentation, you basically maxed out in permits, building code stuff. That was a windfall, and it was budgeted appropriately. I learned about the savings, Delanco. It seems to be in the forefront, is having a good, solid base. I think about moving on. Oh, sorry, thank you. And I'm worried about what the tax increase is going to be if we don't strategically plan. That means you're going to have to cut because you can't keep on spending. And then I worry, what are you going to cut? Are you going to cut recreation? Are you going to cut the library services, police services? Where else are you going to cut? So yes, 33% of our taxes go to the municipality. And watching the past couple years and sitting back and seeing the time and effort and the knowledge of you thinking progressively, I wonder when we then ask the question, what does this town want if we don't have a strategic plan? Nothing is going down in cost. As you noted, benefits have gone up. Utilities are going up. Salaries are going up. Gas went up again. Everywhere we go. So then I wonder for our town, what do we then want to cut? Because we do have mandated services. And I've never seen anything like this before. I've been a resident for 26 years here. I love this town. It's very special to me. But as Mr. Templeton said, about 2 steps down the road, progressive thinking and strategic planning has to be part of your roles and responsibilities. Mm-hmm. So I look at this, I'm not so sure if I'm correct here or not. I'm no expert with land use, even trying to attend the meetings and better understand. If I understand correctly, you can have a different kind of control if you change the zoning. You can work with somebody and keep as much and limit things. But I can do the math. And if I take the average of 190 and I look at that tax assessment for the township, and even if you built 25 homes, it's a heck of a lot more than $7,300 in tax revenue. I very much appreciated the respect, and I thank you again publicly for your dedication to our school board and the school district with the no impact, because as you said, sir, we're in trouble. And, well, we're getting a little better. I just want you to trust me on that. Just trust me a little bit. I can. Test scores are high. And behaviors have increased to be better. So we're trying. But I think if we all work together collaboratively, respectfully, no one knows everything. Every one of us knows something. And we get to elect you. That's our privilege and right. If we don't like something, we can probably try to change that. If we don't attend, if we don't give comments, we then may become part of the issue instead of part of the solution. So I trust all 5 of you. I'm very thankful for your time. You're just tireless in your dedication. And I look forward to this moving forward because I'm very worried about what's going to be next as far as the budgets go. And that's for every entity within this township. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. That was very well said, and thank you again for your dedication to the schools. I know it's a lot to try to work on them on a daily basis as a volunteer. There's a lot thrown at you, and sometimes you're not always on the good side of parents' frustrations, and you get blamed for everything. So thank you again, Joey. Anyone else wishing to speak? Nope. Oh, Mr. Jess popped up real quick, and then we'll go to you after and you after.
Steve Jess, 4 McKay Way. I know how you guys got here.
I'm sorry, Steve, just pick the mic up.
I know how you guys got into the position.
Yeah, you know how I got here? You said it'd be 2 meetings a month. That's how I got here.
The town didn't want any more big boxes, remember? That was the whole thing. Everybody didn't want any more big boxes. So you went and the land use board, and we decided to take all the big properties in town that could be turned into big boxes and box them out so they couldn't be. And of course, there was one person who didn't agree. So that ended up in court. Now, the people that want to build this truck thing came to the Joint Land Use Board for approval. And I won't say who, but I was told this has to pass, because if it does, it's going to go back to court. And I listened to the presentation that was made. He listened to the presentation that was made because he was there too when the land use board, another member sitting in the audience. And there were only two people after listening to what they were going to do. And the trees that they were going to cut down and they weren't going to cut down, and the retention ponds that had something on the bottom that was going to keep the oil from going in, but then it had to be picked up and it had to be cleaned. There were two people that couldn't vote for it, Carl Chorotsky and myself. So it passed. If we didn't have that hanging over our head with the court settlement, I doubt it would have passed. So you guys came up with a plan to buy it. If that thing gets built, it's going to be terrible. And everybody is worrying about what you can do with the property and what you can build on it. Can you build high-rise? Can you build senior? Well, one of the things that you might consider, or not you might consider, but there's a building adjacent to it that's like an office building. It's sitting empty. Kate, you remember who was leasing it?
Princess Cyrus.
Yes, for a very long time, and then they moved out on Route 38. They changed their office.
Right.
Now, I've been in that building, in that office building. Now, there's something here in town that we're missing. We have no pre-K. No pre-K. We closed Walnut, something else that a few of us voted against, but it got closed. So we have pre-K problems, no pre-K. Now, I don't know if it can be used. Maybe that building can be used. Maybe that building can be renovated. Maybe that building could be rented to the school. There's things that can be done with that property that aren't going to go to waste. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to go next?
Hi, Michelle Siebert, 1506 2nd Street. Quick thing with Mike, global warming is real, and I can attest to it, and you can attest to it, because you've been at my house when we flooded. I'm not sure it's totally the Delaware. It could be the culvert next to us. It's unregulated, and there's now mosquitoes and an invasive species of plant that lives there. But our yard is flooding. I mean, Todd and I are now forced to running around to our neighbors trying to find our fish when they flood out of our pond. So flooding is really a problem here, and I think it's something that you're going to address in the future, and it's only going to get worse. My other thing is, when I asked last week about the bond issue, and you guys said you didn't know, now when you present that you did know, is there an Oprah that I can file to find out what the cost of the bond was, what you had presented it as, and what the cost was going to be?
I didn't present it anyway. I said
You just said you had it before the bond expired. You had the terms and you had the conditions. So can
Definitely
we?
didn't say that. I didn't say it. I said interest rates on bonds that are selling on the market are 3.5% to 4%.
But I mean, is there a spreadsheet that's going to tell me what this bond is going to cost us? If in fact it had gone through, just so I can look at it in the future.
Mr. Raymond, could you explain the bond again?
So again, no, we won't know until it's approved, and then we get to sell the bond and what the bond rates are at that time.
I understand that.
So there was no testimony as to what the bond rates were, what it's going to cost at this point.
I understand that, but didn't you include that in your planning before it was null and void? Because didn't you have a plan of what the bond was going to cost in the terms?
No, because it didn't go out to bid.
You never figured in the budget for next year how much our taxes would go up based on what you had the figures then?
No, because we can't do that without the bond actually being approved.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Was there someone over here, Chuck? Absolutely. You can bring up whatever you want.
Good evening. My name is Charles Gross. I live at 35 Walton Way. I wanted to touch upon some of the issues regarding having a strategic plan, knowing what to do with the property. I was in favor of looking at the property further at one of the earlier committee meetings. I still think the property has a lot of value, and I think it's a matter of finding a strategic partner to help determine what the greatest value of that property is. I'm involved in real estate. I've been developing property for a number of years, and it's important to understand that there are certain needs that the township has. I understand that they recently agreed to an FHA commitment for meeting their COA requirements of affordable housing. That's something that the township has to fulfill, and I know that there are companies that specialize in redevelopment and can use this property as well as looking at other properties in town to create additional value and meet the needs of the township. It's just a matter of finding who that partner might be and striking up a relationship. I also wanted to say that, the Zerberg property, with the addition of the park out front, created an additional location for this summer concert series, which I think is awesome. I drove by the park the other day. The amount of effort that Harry's put into the development of that park is tremendous. I'm really looking forward to being and spending, seeing sunsets and listening to music out there. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
Mark your calendar for July 19th is the park ribbon cutting, and there'll be a band there that night and activities for kids and food trucks. So that's something positive that we can all look forward to. So I don't think I wanted to comment on anything that he said.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Strategic plan will take place after, if we purchase the property, if the bond goes through. We can't do it beforehand because of how you have to sell the bonds. I did have a comment about warehousing. Everybody dislikes trucks and warehousing, and we have two warehouses here, one behind us and one next to us. And the owners of that property were Bob Miller and Weitzel. And actually, they donated this land to the township for us to build our municipal building. They also came to us and asked us if we would want to purchase these properties behind us and next to us. Joan Hinkle and I met with Bob Miller and Tom Weitzel. And the township committee at that time did not want to purchase the property. So we could have had those properties and put them to maybe a better use for the township of Delanco. And that was even before we started our Field of Dreams, which would have been nice to have it closer here, but the Field of Dreams was a land swap with the county. But I just wanted you to know that we've always been thinking about what better use can some property be, and I would like to think that we could have made a better use of these two properties had the township agreed to purchase them. It probably wouldn't have cost $3.5 million at that time. It was several years ago. But I just wanted to point that out, so that there are times when we have opportunities and we don't always get them because the township committee has to vote for it, and if they don't agree, it doesn't happen. So I just wanted to add that to you, that those warehouses may not have been able to be there if we would have had one more vote to put something else there.
Thank you. And I think it's important to also note, there was a comment made online that the township would spend millions more to develop the property. We've never indicated such of an intention, and we would not be spending any money to develop the property. If indeed it is the goal of the committee down the road to develop the property and sell it, that developer would then incur those costs to develop the property, not the township. So, anyone else wishing to speak?
Christine Holland, 319 Delaware Avenue. I
Could
didn't
you
intend.
speak up, Christine? We can.
Sure. I didn't intend to speak, so I don't have anything prepared. But I wanted to circle back to the discussion following Liz Mattison's comments. I don't think that there's anyone in this room or watching online that wants more traffic in town, more trees cut down, more development. And the way that discussion went, it sounded like we were actually going to preserve the property, not officially as open space. I just want to be clear that that isn't the intent, that if we purchase this, it will be with the intent to sell it to someone who is going to want to do something to make money with that property.
Sorry.
And rather than being a truck repair facility with parked tractor trailers, albeit 125 or whatever the number was, we're going to have real humans, real car traffic in our town. Those tractor trailers being delivered, or those trucks moving into that facility, they don't have a reason to be coming into town the way that human traffic will when they're wanting to hit 7-Eleven or Dunkin' and all that. So I didn't want a misconception to be out there that the town buying it now saves those trees and saves this from paving and potential flooding and potential traffic. All that stuff is going to come with it. It's just going to be in a different form and different intent. And anyway, that's my feeling and just what I wanted to put out there. Thank you.
So again, the intent is to purchase a property for general municipal use. We don't have a specific plan as to what we're doing as a committee because we don't own the property, and that would be a future committee decision. And we have to purchase the property with the general municipal purpose because of the taxable bond issue. So anything is on the table in my mind still. What's what the future is. There's no concrete plan.
And I think if we did sell it to a developer, we would be able to, at that point, say exactly what it's used for, what trees remain.
You have control,
Not just
yes.
clear-cut it like Criterion is proposing to do. We have total control over the use, the development, everything about it. We don't have that now.
So right now it's classified as an area in need of rehabilitation. If the township committee at that time wanted to zone it an area of need of redevelopment, you literally work one-on-one with a developer as to what goes there. You make the approvals, you go over the plans with them, you sit at the table and say, you want to do this? No, we want a 30-foot buffer. You want to do this? No, we want this. And you sit there and you have control as a board, which is not something you do have on a normal regular development agreement with just somebody that wants to come in and put a development. They work directly with their engineers and then they present it to the Joint Land Use Board. It's a very unique opportunity for the township to work directly with a redevelopment agreement, to work with a developer directly as the control. So when we say we have the unique opportunity to control its destiny, we literally do.
And personally, speaking for myself only, and I'm sure the other committee members would agree, if and when we get to that point, we're not doing any of that without having town hall meetings such as this to hear what the residents would like to see on that property.
Right.
Right.
Chris?
I just want to highlight again then that in the presentation, when we're talking about the appraised value of it being 5.3 million, when you have someone sitting in front of you ready to make an offer to develop it for affordable housing or whatever comes down the pipe, They're not going to pay 5.3 million to be restricted like that. That is the pie in the sky number, and I know we're projecting who knows how far into the future that someone would come to us interested in this property. But I wouldn't pay, if I were looking to buy a house and it was $100,000, but they said, but you can't do this, well, then that's not worth $100,000. So
We're not saying we're going to restrict them. We would say we would work with them
You said that
directly.
you would be controlling what trees you were going to work
We-
one-on-one with the
If that's what they
developer.
want to do, we would work with them directly on what they want to do.
Yeah,
I'm saying if that's what their proposal was and they wanted to buy it for that reason, we would work with them directly. If they want to buy it for another reason that is zoned for that, then we would work with them directly for that. We're not restricting it to just, development. We're not restricting it to this. We're buying it for general municipal purposes, and we get to work with whoever. If down the road we decide to sell it, we would work with them directly. Again, no decisions have been made. But
Absolutely
ultimately,
understand.
as the owner of the property, we would control its future use.
Understood. I just want to put out that the 5.3 million is a great thing if we can get it.
Sure. But that's what the commercial appraiser gave us the number. When you have a house appraised, that's what it's appraised at. That's usually what you're buying it for. It comes in pretty close.
I just want the town people to understand that it's an awesome number. It's a really unlikely number once you start looking at what we would be asking of a developer. So, and rightly so, because we love trees and not having flooded basements.
Right.
And just to play devil's advocate, let's say Christine's correct, and a developer is not willing to pay the 5.3, and they're willing to pay a fraction of that, $4 million, 3.5. We're buying it for 3.5. We're not going to sell it for less than what we purchased it for.
When we set out to do this deal, we were happy with it, the $4 million mark. Because at that point, we're still, we're buying it for 3.5. It's appraised at, the verbal appraisal was $4 million. We're not doing this to make money. We're doing this so we can control its use and future destiny. We're not in the real estate business to sit here and make money. We were thrilled when it came in at 5.3. That was a bonus. But we were okay with it being at $4 million because at least we were going to know that our investment was going to be returned if we did sell it for the 3.5 million. So, and by the way, if the township does decide to sell it to a developer and makes money on it, where does that money go? It goes back into the surplus, and then the benefits of that are then extended to the community in their taxes by surplus. You take from your surplus, the tax rate doesn't go up. Doesn't go into our pockets. Okay, anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Joe Robinson, 37 Pennington Court. This property adjoins our property. Back right up to it. The impact of this project would be detrimental to our home, to the value. We talk about value. Would be detrimental to the value of our home and many homes along Pennington and in Newton's Point. What was said was about, okay, right now the property owner pays $23,000 in taxes. About $7,000 of that comes to the town. What isn't said, if this project goes forward, is the impact to the adjoining property owners, for which, if this goes through, we'll be filing tax appeals to lower the assessment on their properties, which would be detrimental to this town. So there's no status quo. If this goes through, tax appeals will be filed, taxes will be lowered to detriment of everyone in town. Anytime there's a tax appeal, it has to be shared, and there's a reduction, it has to be shared by all the property owners. Last point. Much has been said about market value, and taxes, and strategic plan. Well, being the former tax assessor in this town for several years, I've heard many tax appeals and had many residents come and talk to me about this thing is, this issue is impairing their value. This issue is impairing. My neighbor doesn't take care of their house. I do. How come I'm being penalized? This is a strategic decision that this board is making. I applaud it. I approve, or I am in favor of the referendum, and I ask everyone else to consider in town to approve this, because what the town is doing with this 3.6 million, you're buying an asset. And it's an asset that we're able to get now for the future. It's our children's future, our own future, and we don't know what the future holds for us. But the township has this opportunity at this point in time to make this decision, and I think it's the right decision, and I appreciate your support of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
I just wanted to point out a recent commercial sale in town you may not be aware of, where Wallace Paving was, the 2407 Burlington Avenue, right by the railroad tracks there. It's about 9.5 acres in a flood zone. It just sold for $3.4 million in March, and a auto body shop will be going there. So I just wanted to point that out to let everybody know. Anyone else before I close this session? We couldn't conclude it without hearing from you, Ray.
Conclude it without me. Ray Weber, 22 Ships. I've been coming to these meetings for the last 3 years, every meeting. I missed 4 over 3 years. That's because I was away on vacation. I got to take care of the wife. Much information has been put on the internet that is not true, not totally true, or completely false. Some of this has been generated by those not even who live in Delanco Township. They don't even live in the county. So how can they be putting something out there? The township, a lot of the people in the town have no idea the truck traffic that occurs along Coopertown Creek and Beverly Bridgeboro Road, unless you live on this side, around here. Trucks use this road 24/7. Does the town want to be known as a tractor trailer capital, warehouse capital of the state, or a tree capital? This is what's going to happen if not purchased. The township has over 500 trailers in various lots along Creek Road. That does not include the tractors that hook up to these trailers. Some of these trailers have not been moved in years. You get out, you take drones, you'll see that they haven't been moved because they got flat tires. When the truckers have to make some deliveries here, a lot of times they arrive along Creek Road or Cooperstown Road and they park on the side of the road. Only reason why I know that, because I'm out there, 5:30, 5 o'clock. This morning, going down Creek Road, there were 3 trucks parked on there, waiting to make deliveries. If you have your windows open at night, which I'm a light sleeper, I like the fresh air too, well, these truckers, they use their engines to slow themselves down. For backing up, you hear the beep, 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 because they require it. If you utilize Creek Road to get out to Route 130, you see all the trucks parked. The DMV over here, they do tractor trailer testing there 5 days a week. You'll see trying to pull up behind them or waiting for them to make the turns, even on Creek Road or whatever. Then on top of that, you get the Carvana, the FedEx, and other trucks. The owner states that the owner of this property states that the trucks will be coming and going during normal working hours, with an occasional after-hour delivery. That came from them when they were here making the presentation. But this same truck owner has a truck repair place on Hartford and Bridgeboro Roads, and have trucks coming all hours of the day and night. Have taken the trailer lot next to it, and are using that for part of the repair location also. I've had people take drone pictures of it. Residents in the area are not happy about it, plus the environmental problems that are occurring in that area. If you take the jug handle at Route 130 Beverly Bridgeboro Road, even though the state has increased up the time on the extended light, traffic goes and gets backed up and it gets to be ridiculous. If a wrecker is coming through pulling a tractor trailer, God knows how long he's going to take to get around that jug handle, because that jug handle is not to code. It is not to code right now. Vehicles have to back up to have these trucks make these turns. It's the same thing at the Creek and Beverly Bridgeboro Road right there at the Wawa, when they got to try to make a turn there. I've backed up many times to help some of these truckers get around, because I know what it's like trying to turn a 53-foot truck, plus the tractor. We as individuals who are living in this town are responsible for it. That means that any environmental effect to this town has an impact on all residents. So if cutting down 700 trees, clearing space for 128 trailers and tractors will have no impact, you're wrong. It's been shown that putting in a berm by the owner, if the repair truck company moves in, will not have enough space for replacing all 700 trees. Some of these trees are over 3 foot in diameter and have been there longer than most of the residents in Delanco. The trees produce oxygen that enables everyone to breathe. For the environment. It enables the hawks, the wild turkeys, the deer, the rabbits, the squirrels, the red foxes, the buzzards, all live in and around this area. We keep infringing on these animals, soon we'll only be able to see them at the zoo, not in their natural habitat. So do we want to say hell to the environment and the health of our kids and grandkids, or we want to, or do what we do in our best interest? If the township does not purchase this property, the ramifications cannot be calculated. One thing is Mount Laurel Fair Housing, they could come in and say, township's got to put in more houses, more fair housing. We don't have the property, we don't have the land.
Just got 30 seconds left.
I know.
Okay.
The property, as some say, only affects about 10 homes in Newton's Landing. No, it affects all values within the township. If Newton Landing values go down, all values in the town will be affected. How would you like to have this in your backyard? Noise, lights, pollution, etc. The purchase of this property will increase everyone's taxes, but taxes are going up no matter what. Even without this purchase, who knows what next year's tax situation could be. So I applaud the township for trying to be proactive instead of just being reactive. And I want to thank you for your time and all that you do for the township.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Anyone else? That closes public comment session. And any additional comments? Harry, did you want to add anything additional?
No, unless you want me to.
No, I think we covered it. Mr. Raymond, did you want to add anything?
No, nothing further.
Anybody from committee?
I'd just like to say that the truck traffic doesn't just come in Creek Road and Coopertown Road. It comes in through Burlington Avenue as well. And I'm sure that some of the people may be here who live on Burlington Avenue, but if you're at the light at Cooper Street and Burlington Avenue, some of these trucks, these tractors, they aren't like they were years ago. They're like at least double the size. And I've had to back up more than once at that light. Almost had my mirror taken off. So that truck traffic still comes through the center of town, and we can't control that because it's a county road. Because I did ask the county about that. So, I mean, it does come through, and I just want you to know that it's just not that area that has to deal with truck traffic.
It would be nice if it was, but it isn't. They come down Burlington Avenue. I've sat there and videotaped it. Well, not videotaped, but videoed it. Just so everybody knows, to address the engine braking comment that was made, we are actually introducing an ordinance on Monday night to restrict engine braking in town, specifically on Coopertown and Burlington Avenue. Engine braking, J braking, whatever you want to say. In order for us to put the signs up, we have to have the ordinance, so that will be introduced on Monday night. Breaking news, just so everybody knows. Sir?
Yeah, with the trucking funds here.
Can you come up to the microphone? We only do like one person, but go ahead real quick at
The
that.
trucking funds out here and the one by Wawa and all that trucking issue's not going to stop, whether this happens or not.
We can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Is the mic on?
Yep.
Okay. With the trucking firm here and there, and one over there, and one by up by Wawa behind it, that trucking issue's not going to stop, whether
No.
this happens or not.
100%, but it doesn't mean we don't want additional trucks.
It's just going to get worse.
Yeah, it's just going to get worse. Okay, I think that concludes our session. We'll have another one next month to continue to get the message out there and educate the public. And thank you all for coming, and have a great evening. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, aye.
Aye. You're cold.
I'm shaking. I'm shaking.
great.
Yeah.
We are live.
Hold on.